Here I am again with Joe Maddalena, new backdrop, and one of my favorite pieces of all time is the Edward Scissorhands hands. So you have actual authentic set in this collection.
Yes, a real set of scissor hands. I mean, an anomaly in this hobby. There's so many not real ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I've had the privilege over the last 5.5 years of working for Stan Winston while he was alive. Now I represent his family and work with Legacy. So I have pretty intimate understandings of anything that came out of that studio, more so than probably anybody else other than the people who made these. There are no metal scissors. We can put that to rest forever. I don't care what story or legend or myth is out there, they didn't make them. Period, end of story. If somebody else made them, then they weren't made and worn by Johnny Depp. So that's set to rest. They made them out of plastic. If he had real scissors, he would have killed himself and killed who else was around him, and they would have weighed too much. You couldn't have worn them. So this is a real pair made by Stan's artists. When Stan was alive, I asked him how many pairs survived production, and he said there were 3 that he knew that survived production. That, you know, something could have been stolen, but that he was in control of. Because there's always a caveat when people say there are 3. There are 3 that were in his world. Is it possible that one went out the back door? Absolutely. So one set he sold at a charity auction. He donated them. This probably is this set. Johnny Depp has a set. And the 3rd set is standing right there. Right. So that we know of. Now, it's not to say there's not another set that, you know, a producer, Tim Burton, could have a set, or it's possible. But of what we know, this is a hero set that was used, made by Stan Winston, and again, just iconic. I mean, it's $15,000 to $20,000. I mean, it should be worth $50,000. But again, because we have so much material, this is something that somebody might get a good price on because there's so much stuff.
And then just looking at the hobby at a whole overall, I know we were talking about Lost and how that's driven a lot of new people to your site that don't collect movie props, and that's sort of contributing to growing the hobby. And then also there's a lot of different auctions going on this summer. You know, Julian's has a big auction. There's yet another Star Trek auction by PropWorks, and you know, there's some smaller auctions. So do you think the hobby can absorb all this material in such a short time?
Sure, because it's not that much material. Yeah. So a reporter asked me this morning, we're not a billion-dollar industry. We're all of us combined, so what we do $10 million this summer, it's not that much money. You know what I mean? To be absorbed by thousands of collectors all over the world, it'll all get absorbed. It's all great. Now, if we were a billion-dollar industry and I was doing 20,000 lot auctions, yeah, well, I'm sure we'd all be affected by this because there just would be too much material. There's not, and each one of us has our niche. Darren Julian is like an estate auctioneer. He's selling Bentleys and cars and, you know, all that other stuff. I don't do that. You know, would I have a car that was specific to a movie or TV show? Yeah, but I'm not going to sell Liberace's limo, or we don't, you know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not what we do. The PropWorks thing, great what they do, but again, much more focused on genres that they find interesting. You know, we do really a broad spectrum of TV and motion picture. So we start with the beginning of film with the great DeMille stuff that we have, you know, which, you know, there's amazing, you know, art from, you know, whether it's King Kong or the 10 Commandments or Cleopatra or, you know, Magnificent Ambersons. I think I'm the only person that sells that diverse group of stuff. So in my auction, maybe a third of it is this genre, but the rest of it is, it's diverse. You know, if it was all motion pictures, maybe it would be harder. But because we sell diverse groups of material, I mean, we have great Elvis Presley stuff. The buyer for that isn't taking any money away from the buyer of this. So if you look at it and say, gee, I might do $1 million in paper, right? But that's not going to affect any of this material. So it looks like a lot on the surface, but I think we could actually use more. I'm a big believer that if there were more auction houses and more dealers, you'd have more activity. Because I always tell the story is, you go to a busy intersection and there are 4 gas stations, one on every corner, and there are 7-Elevens. Why? And there are Starbucks all over the place, and people are like, why so many? Because that's now become the place where everybody goes to get gas, everybody goes to get coffee, so it becomes like this highly trafficked area, and all these businesses prosper. Because you might say, Chevron line's too long, I'll go to Shell. You know, that's how you have to look at this. The more of us on these street corners, the more commerce it'll create. So I'm a big activist, and we need more people doing this because they'll reach out and get more people to buy this stuff.
And do you get a sense with the change in the economy that there's people that aren't collectors that are looking at our field as sort of an alternative investment, you know, instead of investing in the stock market or housing or, you know, more traditional
I don't know
investments?
anybody who does this as an investment, and I would tell them not to. You know, if I were asked that question, I would tell, and this is not an investment. This is not an investable. It's a collectible. If you want to invest, buy baseball cards, stamps, or coins, or anything you can put in a plastic holder and you can slab, you know, and it's just not the same thing. Right. These things will appreciate. They have great intrinsic value. The field is very, very small. It's only going to grow in time. But again, buy them because you love them. I only sell really recognizable things or really important things. So if you kind of stick with like Edward Scissorhands, Oogie Boogie, Batman, Marilyn Monroe, stop motion, Ray Harryhausen, Star Trek, Star Wars, you can't go too far wrong. When you go one level down, it's kind of like, and in this auction, the production company who did The Spirit, the movie, came to us and wanted to sell all the costumes and wardrobe. Now, it was a Frank Miller, you know, film. Frank Miller's a great legend, did the 300, Daredevil, blah, blah, blah. And the costumes are gorgeous. The movie was not so good, but the costumes are gorgeous. So we have them all in this sale. They're really cheap. You know, so there's something that if you like that genre, for a few $100, you can get hero after hero, weapon, but it's not something that you'd ever want to invest any money into. You know, it's just because, you know, who knows in 10 years if anybody will remember that movie. Now, The Spirit is a unique example because Will Eisner's character is legendary, and there'll always be people collecting The Spirit, you know, for artwork. So I would just tell people, buy it because you love it, buy things that are great, and if you buy good quality in any collectible, it'll take care of you in time, but do not buy this as an investment.
Okay, thanks.